Okay, so I'm back for another video because there's something we're talking about here, and that is the fact that we've taken out the A high, all right? Um, and now we got range extension on both sides. So what's that mean? Well, um, generally I'd say it means we're probably going to rotate, just rotate. It's just a neutral day. However, the dynamic of short covering and it being a Friday and having talked about short covering, was as being a consideration, and particularly that there's some sort of undercover. It's very slow and methodical. Okay, short covering going on, but that means that it might be advisable to play for the long side at this point. Now we still have not taken out the overnight high. The overnight high was an open drive down. There's potential here. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So what made it significant and wanting to come back, not just taking out the early morning high, but the fact that we've got right now, we've got a new distribution. Okay. And K opened up at the top of J, and I almost came back in J because I was talking about this in an earlier video. J opened up in the highs of I, took back about half of it, but it opened up here, and that's bullish. It can be bullish, especially in the course of the potential for short covering, and we're one time framing up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 periods. Well, you could technically count it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 periods, right? Okay, because E period, we're not one time framing up yet. Okay, F period, we're not one time framing up yet. G, we're not one time framing up yet until we close, and then we probably are. Okay. There's different ways to look at it. You can anticipate it, whatever. But anyway, my point being is that we've been one time framing up a number of periods. It's potential that we get a reversal pattern here in 6 minutes and trade back down and have a flush, and we stop one time framing down, or excuse me, up, and or we trade back in K to the initial balance, the IB high. Okay, so now there's this dynamic that it's either going to hold or it's not. And you got to look at this K. There's been a lot of selling pushing it back down. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it could go either way. But again, that's the nature of the undercover short covering. Okay. So the other reason I wanted to make this video, and this is a key of the kingdom here. Okay. So knowing the context, which is king, everything, we're one time framing up. Here's this red zone, right, where I talk about looking for sellers to step in. Well, do you sell here? Well, I don't know. Now that I didn't take out the H low, J opened up here on the highs, didn't take back more than half of I. That's a pretty good indication that we're engaged. We're like locked in on the roller coaster, going up to the the first drop. Is it going to stop here? And is there a short here? At this point, I would reconsider that. Earlier, I said at one point I can't remember if it was the I was saying I would short it, but now that J opened up, didn't take back more than half. Here's what you want to look for. Okay, that context. Now we came in here, and if somebody shorted the edge again at the A high, it looks like there was, let's see how much, a couple ticks. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 2 or 3 ticks, well, that's not much, or the edge of J. So there's not much there. Now it's in and it's going. And why is that? Well, the context is they're short covering. So this is more useful now. And you have to ask yourself, what's more likely and what's going to be more useful? If we take out the early morning high, are we going to drop back in? Yeah, it's risky, but we actually came in, and now, okay, this is an area where buyers are stepping in, and that's what happened. So you can see how this area, the zone I put in this morning, held to buy against it to move to the upside. Now this was a better little bit of a time to retrace bit. Okay, but that's why this short necessarily was not going to be a good idea at this point in time. Earlier it might have been. It wasn't necessarily ready to rocket straight up through because of the price action. We didn't get a lot of that. J period, now it's a different story. Okay. It's a new story, new bar, new story. So there you go. And what's going to happen next? Well, 3 minutes we're going to open in L, and now we've got either a big fake out to the upside, okay, and they're going to renew their shorts because remember we're back where a lot of shorts first entered in, okay, right here. See that break? So is this a place to reload? Do they have the same idea now? I don't know. Now people are thinking, oh, I better get long. Well, are the players going to slam it? Right now, if we opened up, we'd have a reversal pattern. That does not mean necessarily a straight drop down, and it may not happen until M period if it does. I don't know. I really don't know. Again, you'd want to watch your other instrumentation that you use to determine what's the best situation. So we are inside one of those gray areas that tends to have we went outside of it and we're back in it. So that's bearish, right? We're bearish to the other side. We want to transverse down to 97.50, 97 area. Would I short right now? Just looking at some other things on my other screens, I'm thinking we're going to get either like 1 or 2 ticks below K and it moved back up. Now, will it take out the K high? I can't say that for sure, but I don't think that shorting the L open is necessarily the best idea. So I'm thinking it, even open drive to the upside. Let's see, down to 98. Yeah, I'm thinking possibly like I would say, and again, I'm just gonna let's say for giggles, I'm gonna put need to make it visible. I'm gonna make it blue. I'm gonna make it bigger. Let's say I'm getting in here. I'm gonna extend it so we can. Okay. Let's say I'm looking long here, 90, 98. Okay. So make it a little flush first. So there's L period. Okay, I'm in figuratively. Okay, this is not even sim. This is just a line on a chart where I would, let's say, get in with my idea. So 1 or 2 tick failure. We really need to, if it's not going to work, excuse me, if it is going to work, we need to get up here to this J high. If it's, in fact, if I was in on this, I would really want to, because it's a little uncertain what could happen here. I would want to at least take one off at 3 or 4 ticks below the K open. Even right now, there's a bit of a battle, but I could see even a little bit more of a flush yet before it goes, because there's always the fake out games. We've officially stopped one-time framing. We officially have a reversal pattern in tentative, like in waiting. Now it's coming back, so let's see what happens. Again, where would you put a stop? Well, where will things have changed? Okay, I can't say anymore that if it gets back inside the initial balance that it's really changed, because inflection points and highs and lows and prices are not that solid anymore. The market just seems to be, well, it's actually thickened up lately, it seems to me, but it's not so clear. There's a little bit of what I call throwover. It throws over the price that you think that is like again, exactness kills, right? But that lack of exactness means you've got to risk more. There's potential for things. So the buyers seem to be getting the edge here, but what's really going on is either a fight or just lack of participation. Nothing's really happening yet, and it may be being determined by some of the bigger, smarter traders. What game do we want to play here? Where can we make the most money? What are the dumb traders doing? So maybe they're faking them out with a reversal pattern to go short, or maybe they're waiting for them all to get long and they're selling into that. So I'd only want to wait not too much longer to see if it's going to continue. So we've got 2 ticks of heat so far. Will we keep a single print in J? It's very possible. You know, I want to see some more upward movement. I want to see us get up past 99 to really feel good about this. Just hold. There's not a lot to say except we're just, we're not doing much except holding. But again, one of the positives is we didn't close that distribution yet. Could happen yet. Didn't close that yet. And even if we do, it doesn't mean this trade's over. It just means that would have been a better location. But we did have that double distribution, and we're one-time framing, and we didn't take back much of J. It seems a very good likelihood that we're going to continue. So I had said though, and again, I'm a little bit above this gray area. I'd said when we come in here, there's the odds are pretty good we get to the other side, we traverse it. So if we go any further, that's not going to be necessarily good because we've come out of that gray area, and if we hold below here, that's going to be bearish. We want to get back in it and get actually above our entry price pretty soon. It's a good chance it may flush, and there's a second chance entry, I believe, down at about 95 quarter. But that's a lot of heat to take in a one trade here. I'd want to get out of this because if it comes down and makes a flush, I wouldn't necessarily want to stay in it. Now it's staying exact to the IB high. We did close the double distribution. I don't know that I expect it to, that'll be interesting if it does hold that, because typically we've been seeing it like come through a couple ticks, even if it doesn't hold per se, that's pretty exacting these days. It used to be more the norm. Let me make this bigger. It used to be more the norm, but not so much anymore. All right, so we're back in this gray area, hoping that the downside, we may still get another stab down, another couple ticks, maybe even more, maybe a flush. It's either going to be a tick or two or a flush. Not sure yet. There we go. There's a little tick or two. Okay, it's going to press, or is that going to be the fake out and the move through the IB high and then back to the upside? So could go either way right now. I'm going to hold yet. My fictional trade. Okay. So a 3, 4, 5, 6 tick stop, you would have been shaken out, and that's what a lot of that's designed for. The people who are hiding back inside the IB high, it's like, let's run them out, get them, and they could do that as far as up to 8 ticks really inside an area. It's sometimes you're not going to win, even though you had the right idea, even though you gave it plenty of room, you still might get eaten up. It can happen, You're dealing with people that have incredible amounts of power to move the market a point or two, and it could even be the collective entity. It just works out that way. But the trade, again, it was for the sake of the video. It's like, okay, well, this is the most optimistic, that it just came down by 1 or 2 ticks, and it did, but it came down further. Probably would have been better, but we would have been sitting here doing nothing for a while, waiting to get filled, and that's good. Really should be more patient. I guess I should have considered the VPOC down here. The odds are we weren't going to keep this, but was counting on this. What do you call it? The short covering that's going on, and based on some other things I'm looking at, I'm expecting it to, we're gonna take out that L high. Now, was it worth 6 ticks of heat to make 1 point? I've said before that I don't necessarily believe in the 2-to-1 ratio. You got to have 2 ticks of profits and to justify 1 point of heat type of a ratio. I don't believe in that. I think that's absolutely arbitrary, thought-stopping nonsense. It just depends how good you are. Depends how fast you are. Depends on how much you recognize that the dynamic is still in play. And I think I pretty much showed you that even though we came inside the IB high, the trade wasn't off. Now, if we came back down here again on the lows, I'd be really pressing it to say, oh, I'm going to hang in there till it comes back up. That'd be a little bit foolish. I might just have to cut my losses and say maybe hope for a little bounce and flatten. But You know, I'm gonna hold for a minute, see what happens. We're back in that dynamic. We're coming back. Really want to get into the JKL, the 3 wide area, get above this volume node and the L high. So hopefully we get that, but it's not guaranteed. You know, not guaranteed at all. You know, I'm not real impressed with the tick. The tick is still below 0, but there's some indications that may come up. You know, it's really slow. You know, that's another thing to consider. Is the pace of tape is quite slow. So we see some buyers here building underneath. That's not, you know, what to read from that. Well, it means that there are people supporting the market here, right? Or ostensibly supporting the market. You can pull out anytime. You can pull out up until you're filled. And then if you do, you become a seller, which is not good. So that's not what we want to see. We want to see some of these back off, and we want to see these build up. This building up again at 97 quarters. So something's going on here. What exactly? You know, are they holding it so they can sell into it to drive it down? I don't know. But we are back into an area where a lot of forces are at play, and the idea would be to traverse to the upside again. Again, there's some factors that say no, we're just going to rotate down, but maybe not before we get our profit, right? So again, I'm just gonna. There was a slam down there. Didn't like that. Let's go ahead and turn this blue for now, maybe a little bit. So let's just say this is blue. See what happens. Okay. Now at this point too, at this point in the day, being tired, and it's kind of like, you know, you don't want to give back your profits, and okay, so it's not really working. It's not going your way and going your way quickly. Do you still believe in the idea? What's really happening here? Are we going to get a flush to the downside? I don't know. We're not getting more extension to the downside, so there could be some covering that's going to happen, and they give up, and we just carry on up. And that's what we've seen in prior TPOs, is some of this downward thrusting, and then all of a sudden letting off the gas and going back to the upside. And I'm anticipating that to happen again here. We'll see. You know, at this point too, you could just say, you know what, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm tired. It's 3 in the afternoon, and I'm ready to hang it up. It's the weekend. You know, flatten for a couple ticks and call it a day. You know, especially if you had a good morning. But I do believe, you know, I still believe that this might work out pretty soon. Okay, so we've got a new 10-minute candle, 5-minute candle just opened up. That's always productive. Well, productive in the meaning it produces something. It doesn't mean it produces something in my way. It just means that we've produced a 10-minute candle, and we've produced people who act on those new bars. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, you want to look at a 10-minute candle chart and decide what does that look like to here. Okay, so what does this look like? Let's throw a trend line on here. I'm not saying you have to do this all the time, but let's go to this low. Okay, what I don't like is that we're below this trend line. It depends on where you want to start that. So we can start it from here. We're still no, we're not below it now. This actually makes me feel better. Wait a minute, let me make sure. Probably have this a little too small. Okay, that's not actually, that's a little bearish. We got the stochastics pointing downward. Not liking that, but it's still good for a point or so to the upside yet. We may get a retrace on the underside of this. You know, I don't know. It's just, you can draw trend lines a lot of different ways. Doesn't mean it's over. Doesn't mean that here we're popping up, it looks like. So let's look at a 5-minute. Okay, this looks a lot better. I don't really have a, there you go. So I don't really have a stochastics or anything. This is looking a lot better for a move up to maybe even 2,700 level. Let's take a look back at the profile. Okay, here we go. So now we're 3 ticks in the money, 4 ticks. You can see that they're covering a little bit. It's pop, pop, pop. Again, the entry is at 98. We haven't really reached that ratio that the jarheads want to ram down your throat, thought-stopping nonsense that it's got to be 2-to-1 ratio. You can take a point right now. Okay, $50, and go have a nice dinner. There's $75 right there on a one lot. Okay, wouldn't have gotten filled at 99.50 unless you had market if touched, and then you would end up with maybe 5 ticks, maybe 4. So let's believe we're going to continue higher. We're going to probably make a poor high, in my opinion. It may, again, there's an edge to sell off of, so sellers might step in here. Sellers might step in right at the edge of this volume distribution, which is the midpoint, which I call the more moderate area in these areas, or moderate point in these areas, or the more conservative would be at 01. One thing to consider, it went right to the 2,700 level. I was just saying on the 5-minute that we might get up to the 2,700, and we did. Is the game over? Right now, I call this a successful trade. In fact, we've gone further than we took heat. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio, let's say. But, do you believe in it? What's going on? Are we going to continue higher? I don't know. Might get a lot of back and forth in here yet. So one thing I've been working on myself is to reloading. Like, so right now, take one off, and if you're on a one lot, and reload on a pullback if you still believe in the upside. I do believe in the upside. I don't necessarily think it's going to turn over and flush in this TPO. I believe we're probably going to continue higher, and there we go. Okay, and now there's your right at the midpoint where sellers might step in. It looks like there's a little fight here on the edge of this distribution. It's bumping out blue. Looks like some covering going on. I would expect to see a poor high made and a move up to the pivot point, possibly. That's the next point. This single print, this gray area, this pivot point. But we got a pretty good trade going right now. It's just, is it going to continue? I keep talking like I'm a radio announcer. I guess, they say that on radio that the killer is dead air. You don't want dead air. And so forgive me, but, where else are you going to get a play-by-play of the dynamics and of a trade like this and, maybe glean something that can help you going forward for the rest of your life? Well, right here. So again, you'd be getting in front of the train here, but that is a point where sellers might step in and fight back a little bit. But, again, be careful getting in front of short covering it. The more we get up here, the more likely you're going to, see more fighting, but also some sharp pops as people give up the fight. We got a huge build here at 99.75. Well, you also saw a big slam. So either that was people like getting out and who bought way up here in the highs. Let me explain this to you. So people are like, oh, I better get in long. They bought way up here on the highs. They finally got back to even, and they got out of their trade. They're like, they bought long here, and it came against them several points. They got here, and they're like, they just get me out. And that's what you see when this stuff happens, okay? So you can have that for free, too. Took me a lot of years to learn this stuff, and nobody really told me. You have to pick it up here and there, little insights, little thoughts, little experiences. And one day you put it all together in your sleep, and then you wake up and you're one more block down the road. You're one more country mile down the road of your journey. Okay, so I think right now that, again, this is where you would have wanted to get out on one lot and maybe reload if it pushes back down, which I can see happening. If you're in more than one lot, you probably ought to have taken some profits and move to break even, see what happens. Or you can keep your risk on. You paid for it. You've paid for it. You can keep your risk on because there are pretty good odds we're going to get a move back down to the L open or a tick or two below, back to our entry point at 98. But there you go. So I'm going to end the video. There's no need to. You can look at your own chart to see how it played out. But I think we're going to. The way it looks now is that L period is probably going to make a poor high before the end of the TPO. If not, we've got a good high, and you might want to watch M period as being the move where we get the flush back down, and end the day maybe somewhere back in the middle where we started. Maybe not in the open, but somewhere back in the middle. In fact, let's take a look here from the low to high. We've got oh, look at that, 23.6. How about that? We can see a possibility of, let's say maybe we end somewhere between 93.50 and 91.25. That's if the M period flushes, but we'll see. As I don't like to say, but find myself continually repeating it, anything can happen, So here was our entry. Let's just say our exit was 2 points, okay. And so there was 2 points. All right, there you go. Make a great weekend. Not sure I'll be back for any more videos. Bye.